Hello, my name is Vitari Alamanda and I'm an IISMA awardee and also a student representative to Korea University, and this is a story about my journey. Back home, I'm a student from Universitas Gadjah Mada majoring in psychology from the batch of 2018. Here in Korea University, I am studying subjects that are similar but also different to what I'm studying back home, which are from the Korea University Business School and Korea University College of Education. I'd like to talk to you about my journey all the way from the beginning up to this very day. Let's bring it back to May of 2021. One fine day, I was just playing my phone until I got a notification from my class group about an international exchange program that is a scholarship to universities abroad. Obviously, give it a look. I read quickly as to what the program has to offer, and I was impressed and intrigued. I mean, getting a full scholarship to study in universities abroad with almost all of the expenses being covered, like who's not interested? After lots of thinking, careful consideration, and endless discussion with my friends and family, I finally decided to give it a go. A little story, I actually had a hard time deciding which university I wanted to attend and wanted to apply to, but after thorough research, I ended up with Korea University. I chose Korea University because of its prestigious background, of course, all the interesting courses that it has to offer, all the stories I've heard about the country, and not to forget, Seoul has always been the city that I've always wanted to live in and I want to experience firsthand, and I've always loved the culture, and that's why I'm here. Okay, anyways, back to the application process. Preparing and collecting all the required important documents was actually quite hectic because I had to go back and forth here and there looking for resources, especially having to collect them all in such a short period of time. After submitting all the required documents, I fortunately got called into the interview session, and let me tell you, days and weeks after that interview session is probably one of the most anxious days of my life because waiting for the results to come out was definitely very nerve-wracking. I fast forward, I remember this one day I got a notification saying that at 8 p.m. IISMA was going to release the results, and that was probably the longest 8 p.m. of my life. But anyways, after 8 p.m. came, I vividly remember opening it together with my mom, and I also remember screaming together with her when I saw a little green rectangle on the corner of the screen saying that I got nominated. I can actually still feel the happiness, the excitement, the joy, all the grateful feeling that I felt back then every time I recall back to that moment. Until today, that moment will always remind me that hard work never betrays and dreaming big will eventually come true someday. So initially, we were scheduled to depart for KU's fall semester last August of 2021, but due to the peak of the COVID-19 outbreak, the plan was cancelled. Disappointment, sorrow, sadness, worry, all of these negative emotions started flooding in. Thankfully, KU and IISMA were still understanding and kind enough to still give us the opportunity to enroll for their spring semester in 2022. Although it was far from the initial plan, it was still a golden opportunity. Since I'm a final year student, I fully acknowledge and accepted the fact that being deferred to the next semester, which is like right now, has its own consequences, and yet I still decided to proceed, knowing full well that experiences like this don't come twice. Traveling and studying in the middle of the pandemic wasn't actually the easiest thing. Back when everything was under lockdown and borders were closed, I was actually very thankful enough that the visa for the students was fortunately opened. However, following that, there were still lots of governmental procedures that we had to follow, like taking a very specific PCR test that we could only take in designated hospitals or clinic that has to be translated to English, and it must be due 24 hours before our arrival in South Korea. After days of preparation, finally comes the day for our departure. I finally got to see all my 49 other awardee friends in the airport, and I never actually thought 50 people would be that much people. But after all the 50 of us gathered together in the airport, it was a lot of people. After saying goodbye to our friends and family, we finally boarded the aircraft. Our trip was actually very long. We had to transit for 10 hours before we could actually step foot into the city that we've always anticipated for months. And even after arriving, we couldn't directly explore the city because we had to go through another governmental procedure, which was quarantine for 7 days. Before arriving to our quarantine hotels, I remember having to take a PCR test, and that was actually the first time we were exposed to Seoul's very cold air. It was -3 degrees and it was crazy cold. My gloves were in my luggage and I couldn't feel my hands back then. After that, we were sent to the hotels and then we were locked up for the next week. We do get meals daily, 3 times a day, and thankfully there was also the halal option, so I didn't really have to worry as much as to what I had to consume for a whole week in quarantine. The food was edible and I actually enjoyed every meal. Towards the end of the quarantine, we had to take another PCR test, and once I got my negative test results, I got to leave the facility and then went straight to the dorm, and that was when my journey truly begun. Adjusting to a new environment that's different from where one was raised in is unquestionably one of the biggest challenge that I or anyone would face while living abroad for the very first time. Like settling with the weather, understanding public transportation routes, walking kilometers per day, hiking hills, getting used to high pitches, and moving amongst the fast-paced culture became my normal day-to-day. Undoubtedly, it was very, very different from my usual routine back at home. Besides that, living alone came with a lot of responsibilities for myself, like time management, financial control, health maintenance, were things that I had to take account of while being away from familiar resources. Might I add, homesickness may also arise every now and then, especially the time when I had to celebrate Eid alone here with my friends, far from my family, which was very sad because this is my first time doing so. But that's okay, because thank God for technology, we can still connect despite our distance. All in all, remembering why I started would easily cover up all the sadness, and it would encourage me to get back up stronger. Water break. Besides, all the hardships and all the sadness were actually nothing compared to the amount of happiness, the joy, the gratefulness of being awarded as a scholarship student here at Korea University. Studying in one of the most prestigious universities in Asia is more than just an honor, and being happy to be here is definitely an understatement. Korea University provides the best education to their students, and I can testify this statement during my study here. Although most of my classes are still conducted online due to the pandemic situation, it actually does not decrease the quality of education that I received. All the professors who taught me were very understanding, very encouraging, and very dedicated to their jobs. And most definitely, they are qualified educators. To be able to learn from them is definitely a privilege that I am very thankful for. It is true that standards here are very high and everything is very competitive. But don't get me wrong, this actually pushes me to align to their level, motivating me to further develop and advance. Learning through others and sharing perspective is a form of wisdom that I value highly, and I am very grateful to be given the opportunity to do so here in KU. One of the many examples is how I am a part of the Buddy Association here in Korea University, and this allowed me to expand my networks and maintain connections with people from all over the world. And another thing that I'm very grateful for that is actually maybe not appreciated enough is living in the international dorm. I get to meet people from places I've never even been to before in one of the most unexpected places like the kitchen or the laundry room. However, if I were given more time, I would have joined more student clubs and communities so that I can expand my network even more and even devote myself for something that I actually truly enjoy. Back then, I was afraid of joining these clubs because there was some language barrier. That's why if I were given more time, I would study the Korean language even more, so joining these clubs and communities wouldn't be much of a worry. Living alone abroad for months has really taught me so many things and really shaped me to the better, and it has also changed my perspective towards so many things. I could actually go on and on talking about all the valuable lessons, all the memories I've made, but it could literally take hours. What I'm trying to say is, during my stay here, every day is like a new page that I'm very grateful for, and every day just has its own surprises that I can learn from. I'm sad that I'm gonna be leaving this place very soon, but I am even more glad to be coming back home with a bucket full of memories, new experiences, and definitely upgraded knowledge. I am officially IISMA biased because thanks to this opportunity, I get to live one of my dreams that I never even thought I would achieve this early in life. And of course, not to forget, I too wouldn't have been the person I am today if it weren't for this experience. There will be so many things that I will definitely miss after leaving this place. I will miss all the running to catch the next bus ride. I will miss hiking up the Annam Hill to enter the dorm, grocery shopping, carrying luggages so that bringing back the groceries wouldn't be much of a hassle. I will miss all the wonderful picnics, the midnight ramen runs, and all the other corner of this beautiful city. To conclude this video, I've once read a quote that says, "Don't limit your challenges, but challenge your limits." And with that being said, when opportunities such as this one are available, I encourage anyone to take it no matter what the results may be in the future. Never be afraid to take on new challenges because they truly offer the best rewards. Experience it for yourself. Be bold to go abroad.